Call the meeting to order. And the first thing I'm required to do under General Statute 138A-15 is to remind all the commission members of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest and to disclose whether any member of the committee has a known conflict of interest with respect to any of the matters coming before the committee today. Seeing none, we'll go to the next order of business, which is approval of the draft minutes for the September 10th meeting of the Water Allocation Committee. If you've had a chance to review the minutes, is there a motion to approve in the absence of any corrections? Commissioner Tweedy?
I have a correction. I'm not listed as a member of the committee.
We will make that correction. Are there any other corrections to the minutes? Seeing none of there, I'm sorry.
I got one other one. There's a note in there that Steve Keen moved to approve the minutes. He's not part of this committee.
Oh, two we didn't catch. So we will correct the,
I'm not sure who that was.
yeah, that's a good question.
He could have been saying.
Well, what we can do is,
That can't be right.
if we don't have the information about who correctly made that motion at the time in front of us, and we may have that in our notes, I suspect we do, and there will be a transcript. Yes, so we do have a way to confirm who made the actual motion. So I would suggest we can just defer approval of these minutes until the next meeting, and then we can make that correction when we know who that person was. Is that agreeable to the committee? Then we would just defer approval of those minutes. Thank you. The first action item is the request for approval to proceed to the EMC with the schedule for readoption of a set of rules, and that would be Mr. Peel.
Good morning, Vice Chair Smith and Commission members. My name is Linwood Peel, and I'm here with the Water Planning Section of the Division of Water Resources. And I'm here to request approval to proceed to the Environmental Management Commission with the schedule for readoption as part of the periodic review of existing rules for 15A NCAC 02G. And these are the allocation of the Jordan Lake water supply storage rules. To give you a little history, in July, the Environmental Management Commission approved the 2025 periodic review of the rules report for the 15A NCAC 02G rules. In August 28th, the Rules Review Commission approved the report as submitted by the Environmental Management Commission. And on October 29th, the determination were final following the 61st day after the Rules Review Commission submitted to the Administrative Procedure Oversight Committee. And in the subchapter 02G 500 section, the allocation of Jordan Lake water rules had 7 rules that was necessary, and that was the determination. And here I'm gonna provide you the proposed rulemaking timeline. And the goal is for the staff to start in late December with the stakeholder engagement process, then followed by a few months of rule drafting, physical note drafting, and getting approval from the Office of State Budget and Management. And hopefully by September of 2027, we'll bring to the Water Allocation Committee to approve it to go to the EMC for public notice. And then followed by the beginning of January 2028, public hearings, the comment periods, of course, working with the hearing officer, with developing the hearing officer report. And by September 2028, have the EMC Environmental Management Commission adopted and hopefully come effective December 1st, 2028. And with that said, and today we're requesting, DEQ is requesting approval to proceed to the Environmental Management Commission with the readoption schedule for 02G as presented in attachment A in the previous slide.
Are there any questions for Mr. Peel? Yes, Commissioner Tweedy.
Go back to the schedule. Is that
Yes.
schedule correct? What's happening between now and next December?
Several things. The main thing is DEQ has developed a readoption schedule for all the rules. And so we took a look at the schedule and when rules are coming, and there are several months when the Environmental Management Commission is meeting where there is 150 to 200 rules in a month. And so we tried to fit in where we could get in, work in the schedule.
Okay, I understand. It looked like to me maybe it was off a year, but. Okay.
No. And so we're trying to find a time of law. And it's a couple other things. The next 6 to 9 months, we're going to have a heavy lift. The same staff that's doing Joe and Lace going to be doing the Fuquay Arena IBT.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Peel? Is there a motion to approve the proposed timeline, the readoption schedule? Commissioner Tweedy?
I will move that the committee approve to proceed to the EMC with the readoption schedule for O2G as presented in attachment A.
Is there a second to that motion? Second. Commissioner Hardison. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The second item on the agenda is an information item, the IBT update by Ms. Holcomb.
Hi all, my name is Maya Holcomb and I'm the IBT coordinator with the Division of Water Resources, and I'm going to give a brief IBT update this morning. There are currently 3 IBT requested in the works, the town of Morrisville, which is the most recent request, Charlotte Water, and the town of Fuquay Varina. I'm starting off with the town of Morrisville. The town of Morrisville proposes to move water from the Catawba Basin to the Rocky and the South Yadkin basins. They receive their water supply from Lake Norman and the Catawba River Basin. They hold a pre-existing allowance of 8 MGD based on an average day max month, and deduced from a 30-year demand estimate, the town now requests to transfer a tentative 12.6 MGD. And just to note, we made notes on the lower half of the slide that this number is most likely to change when we receive the draft EIS. So where are we in the IBT process? Morrisville is now beginning developing their EIS, their draft EIS, and Morrisville has published their draft scoping document for the EIS this year. Moving on to Charlotte Water, if we don't have any other questions. Charlotte Water's IBT request involves modification of their existing 33 MGD transfer certificate from 2002, which allows the transfer of water from the Catawba Basin to the Rocky Basin. Charlotte Water has requested to modify their existing certificate for up to an additional 30 MGD based on forecasted demands. Until the EIS process concludes and the EMC decides the adequacy of this request, the transfer amount is subject to change. And I just wanted to note this is a preliminary number that may be updated during the IBT process. So where are we in the process? Just a reminder that even though this is a modification request from Charlotte Water, an EIS is required due to the South Carolina versus North Carolina settlement agreement. And Charlotte Water's EIS is currently paused at the moment while the Catawba Water Management Group's modeling and integrated water resources plan is completed. This is just some information from Charlotte Water. Next, we're moving on to the town of Fuquay Varina. The town of Fuquay Varina is currently undergoing a new IBT certificate. The town has completed their draft EIS in the draft EIS, a 6.17 MGD IBT request is proposed for transfer from water from the Cape Fear River Basin to the Neuse River Basin. Where are we in the process? Fuquay has completed their draft EIS. The draft EIS was published in the State Clearinghouse on October 22nd, and the public notice was published on the State Clearinghouse on October 31st. The posting period will be extended for these documents until Monday, February 2nd of 2026. We're going to get into the public hearings that will be on the next slide. But newspaper, email, and letter notifications regarding the public hearing have been dispersed. And after the 3 public hearings, the public will have until February 1st to comment. These are a list of the 3 public hearings that will occur for the town of Fuquay, Varina. And I just want to briefly mention Commissioner Tweedy and his important role as a hearing officer for the 3 public hearings. So DWR just wanted to thank you for your time during this process, because it is a lot of time. The 3 hearings will be held at Fayetteville Technology Community College on December 4th, the ground floor hearing room, this building, in the Archfield building on December 9th, and then the Chatham County Agricultural and Conference Center on December 11th. DWR will accept both written and oral comments during this public hearing, during the comment period, which extends to February 1st, and we will accept written and oral comments. I just wanted to mention also the OASIS hydrologic model. OASIS stands for the Operational Analysis and Simulation of Integrated Systems. It's a computer program used to simulate surface water flows within a river basin. This model was utilized to analyze Fuquay's alternatives for their draft EIS. The public may request access to the OASIS model. That access request form is actually posted on DEQ's Fuquay IBT webpage, so please check that out if you'd like. And there will also be 2 model access trainings on December 2nd and December 16th. These will be virtual trainings by Hazen and Sawyer. And the trainings will show participants how to sign into the model, how to gain access to the model, and the location in the model where the hydrologic runs are put. So that concludes my presentation, and please let me know if you have any questions. My contact information is above too, if you have questions after the meeting.
Are there questions for Ms. Holcomb? I have one question concerning Charlotte Water. I assume the meetings of the Catawba Water Management Group are ongoing in the background of all this. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Any particular developments there, or just still talking?
They right now are talking and still developing their integrated water resources plan.
And do you have any update on when they expect to have that integrated water resources plan completed?
I believe the draft should be done relatively soon. And then after that, they'll put it out to their stakeholders to gain comments on that. But I believe between first quarter and around second quarter at the latest of 2026.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Holcomb? None? Well, thank you very much. And the next information item is on the Triangle Water Supply Partnership. Mr. Wheeler?
Good morning, Vice Chair, Chair, committee members. Thank you for having me here today. Whit Wheeler, I am the Chair of the Triangle Water Supply Partnership and also Director of Raleigh Water. I want to thank you for having us here today to share with you some of the work that we've been doing the last few years on water supply issues in the Triangle area. This presentation, we want to give you some background on who the Triangle Water Supply Partnership is made up of, what the focus is, the Triangle Regional Water Supply Plan approach. We want to share with you some preliminary findings for the 2070 regional water supply requirements, talk about next steps, and hopefully answer any questions that you may have. So as you know, the Triangle region is facing challenges with water supply. Those issues, new water supply is complex. We have a lot of growth going on in the Triangle area. We have to determine if we have sufficient supply to meet those future needs. And in addition to supply issues, we have water quality concerns. As you all know, most of us are dealing with PFAS issues, nutrient management, and we also are faced with different regulatory strategies that we have to navigate. So to share a little history, the Jordan Lake Partnership was first formed in 2009 by a group of municipalities that wanted to water supply allocation from Round 4 Jordan Lake allocation. The partners, realizing that a collaborative effort would be more successful, submitted a letter of interest on the Round 4 allocation and began work on a comprehensive plan. That plan was completed in 2013 and an application was submitted in 2014. And in 2017, the EMC took action on that plan, which was favorable for the Jordan Lake Partnership. In the meantime, the current group started looking at some other initiatives. One thing was an interconnection model, and which is comprised of bolting together all the hydraulic models for the water systems to look at how we could move water back and forth between the partners, and mostly for emergency situations. And then shortly thereafter, the group realized that, you know, we're all interdependent here in the Triangle area, and that we wanted to expand the Jordan Lake Partnership to the whole Triangle region. And so we, at that time, renamed the group to the Triangle Water Supply Partnership and reached out to several other partners. And I'm happy to say that we now represent a 7-county area in our region, 14 members. Of course, we had a pandemic that slowed down some of our operations. We were able to work on some water shortage response plans in that time and get together a plan for putting together a comprehensive regional water supply plan for the entire group. And we were also able to update our interconnection model with all the new membership. So this slide is very busy, but it shows you all the different interconnections between the different water supply regions and how we can move water around the Triangle. This was extremely important this summer during Chantel. You may know that the town of Hillsborough had to shut down their water plant because of flooding. And because of some of the work we're doing here, they were able to get water supply from the partnership to survive that. So the Triangle Water Supply Partnership is made up of 14 different municipalities and authorities: Town of Cary, Johnson County, Harnett Regional Water, Holly Springs, Orange Water and Sewer, City of Durham, Town of Morrisville, Apex, Town of Hillsborough, Orange County, Clayton, Fuquay, Varina. Most recently, Tri-River Water, which includes Sanford, Chatham County, Pittsboro, Siler City, and Raleigh Water, which also serves 6 other municipalities. And we meet every 2 months, and it's not just about water supply issues anymore. So most of us have wastewater systems, so we're constantly collaborating on those issues, regulatory trends. We had a whole working group on the new lead and copper rules. So overall, this group has been very healthy for us to stay in touch with all the utilities in the region, what they're doing, how they're handling situations, so that we're being consistent in our Triangle area. So here's a map that will let you see how we're laid out with the 7-county area. Part of it clearly in the Cape Fear River Basin, the other part in the Neuse River Basin. And we've shown here for you the existing and planned water supply locations. just to give you an idea of where the water is currently coming from. And the ones that say planned, that's where there has been design work and budgeting, and those projects are in motion. And I would mention that, a water supply source here can serve multiple partners. For instance, Harnett Regional Water provides water to the town of Fuquay-Varina, Holly Springs, and Johnson County. So moving on to our water supply plan approach. First of all, how will we use this plan? So the membership will be able to use this plan for all their individual water resource planning needs, which will help us inform how to prioritize our capital projects. As you know, new water supply is extremely expensive nowadays, so this will be a strong framework for that. And also, we're looking at how climate change may impact our water supply plans. We hope that DEQ, Division of Water Resources, will be able to use this plan to update the state's basin plans, support the upcoming applications for Jordan Lake Allocation Round 5, and other water supply alternatives that we will be developing in the plan. And of course, we hope that the Division of Water Infrastructure will be able to utilize this plan for funding our future projects. As I mentioned, water supply is continuing to be very expensive. So this is our roadmap. As I mentioned, we have begun the process of the regional water supply plan. With the recent addition of Tri-River, we're able to take their information and get that integrated in that plan. And so we're very close on the forecast. We expect to move into a modeling phase and an alternatives evaluation very shortly. We're utilizing the OASIS model, which Division of Water Resources uses. That model will be comprehensive for the Cape Fear and the Neuse River Basin. And as we set up that model, we can do all the different scenarios with the alternative water supply analysis to determine what's going to be best for our region. And finally, once that work's done, we will have an updated regional water supply plan that covers a 7-county area with clear recommendations and a documented vision of where we're going in the next 50 years. So the supply plan approach began with updating the 2014 model, utilizing all the information that the membership currently had. For instance, the city of Raleigh had just completed an integrated master plan in 2023 that had a water supply component. And so that information has now been taken and extended to a 2070 horizon. And we, thankfully, with the addition of Tri-River Water, we were able to include their forecasts and evaluations. One of the good things about the partnership, though, is we were able to schedule peer review sessions where one partner would put forth their water supply forecast, and all the other partners had an opportunity to comment on the assumptions that are being made. And, the gallons per capita usage. Some of our partners have, like the town of Cary, has been on an AMI system for 10 years, so they have really good granular data on residential customers, so forth, so we can get these numbers right to most, because we don't want to be double counting. As I say, we're starting to see some stress on our water supply, so we're trying to get it right as a region. And then accounting for uncertainty. I'll just throw this out as an example. So there's a lot of talk about data centers recently. The data centers are very water intensive. How do we account for that? That water is evaporated, it's lost, it's not returned, so we can't depend on that water supply anymore. So those are factors that we're trying to build into the plan so that we have alternatives that could possibly be resilient, and it could be other industrial growth. And again, just want to point out that we are using the OASIS model so that this will be very, very familiar with Division of Water Resources. So I wanted to share with you, and I've got draft on the slide. This is preliminary information of what the forecast looks like for the entire region. So the 2022 number is an actual demand that we've seen. And then, of course, everything else is a projection into the future. I think what I want to point out here is that the near-term demand, 2050, we're going to need another 138 million gallons per day. Well, there will be another 138 million gallons per day of water usage based on this, and up to 220 million gallons per day out in the year 2070. So, as said, we continue to see pressures, in residential, industrial, and the commercial sector. We do have about 50 million gallons per day of new water supply in the works. Again, those are planned projects that have been budgeted. Engineering is happening, and that will help us in the short term. But for the long term, we're going to need another 100 million gallons of additional supply to meet those demands. And that's roughly a 50-50 split between the Cape Fear and the Neuse River basins. And again, we want to emphasize that we are trying to run climate change impacts in that OASIS model. So I wanted to share this slide with you just to so that you can get a visual of how complex the OASIS model is. So that model's built on over 100 years of hydrologic records with many different scenarios. And what we're using this model for is to identify every withdrawal we know about, every return through wastewater treatment system we know about, all the water movement, so that as we're evaluating the water supply alternatives, we can input that into the model to see what the impact is on downstream users. Just want to emphasize that we are looking at all the different water supply alternatives, from reservoirs run to the river. A number of the partners are looking at using rock quarries for storage. We're still looking at groundwater in some areas, and also how we manage our water. Water sales or purchases, water conservation. Back in 2007, we all got very serious with conservation, and we bought a lot of time with those conservation measures. But I think there's still some things that can be gained with that, with paying close attention to how we use the water and reclaim water options. Water supply alternatives. So to date, we have identified 6 in the Cape Fear, 4 in the Neuse. In addition to, like we mentioned before, the management strategies, the non-geographic, which would be use of reclaimed water or water conservation measures. And then the 5 in magenta or purple are the ones that I have mentioned that are in the planning phase, near future. And so this evaluation criteria, there's an exhaustive list, as you can see before you. I won't read it all to you, but it's clearly going to come down to how soon can we bring these supply alternatives online. How technical is it? How much is it going to cost? What are the environmental impacts? What stakeholders are being affected? And the plan recommendations, we expect for each alternative to have a firm location, precise quantity, participating utility systems in that source, and then a schedule. And of course, we'll be looking at, regional collaboration. For instance, Tri-River Water is a recent example of that group coming together. So is the Western Intake Partners, of how the partnership will group together to fund water supply sources, and also, the policy and regulatory initiatives. So we do expect that we may need to revisit our policies on IBTs, on different permitting criteria as we start to see more and more challenges in that arena. So the Triangle Water Supply Partnership is checking in with the Division of Water Resources branch. We're trying to continually understand the near-term perspectives of what the landscape looks like, what would likely be supported, but also really the next 50 years. The long-range plan is really important for us to understand, the state's vision for how we're going to do this over the next 50 years. And so this is our timeline. What I mentioned was we are currently working on the regional forecast that is very close to being entered into the OASIS model. The OASIS modeling will be going on this winter. We will shortly in the spring, hopefully have a recommended, a workshop for the recommended portfolio of water supply options. And then we'll move into preparing our draft regional water supply plan, host a final workshop, publish a plan, and then we'll schedule a meeting with Division of Water Resources to go over that plan. And so with that, I'll entertain any questions. I have a large group here with our consultants and other partners that are in the audience that may be able to answer questions that I can't.
Any questions for Mr. Wheeler?
I just want to make one overarching statement, if I could, as chair of the whole commission. We've had the Catawba Water Rebasin come in on several times. Barry Gullett, when he was a former director of Charlotte, one of Witt's counterparts, when he led that organization. Jeff Lineberger was here about a year ago. We have never had this group really in before us, except back 10 or 15 years ago when the water allocations were made. It's really changed in the last 5 years. And so I really wanted the commission, as I went through this, to understand that the Catawba Water Re wasn't the only one that was going through this detail. This is a tremendous amount of detail and effort that this organization has done. Yadkin PD has one too. It's not quite as strong as maybe this one or the other one is, but they're working too. So really want the whole EMC to understand at a state level, in these highly urbanized areas, there are groups right here in the triangle that are working on this too, and to know that there are resources for us. It would also bring for newer members the question about, well, what does that mean for the other basins? Because they don't have this kind of organization or driver. As you would see before, drivers have been a big part of this. For Catawba Water Re, it's the FERC licensing. For this basin or this association, it was the Jordan Lake allocations, which what we found out years ago was different people were using different planning numbers. They weren't all anticipating things like the data centers. And this really sprang out of that because the staff is tracking this on the local water supply plans, but they're not sitting down like Whit and his group are to make sure everybody's using the same assumptions and the same trends and those kind of things. So this really does help facilitate the EMC in making water allocations and IBT certificates and just tremendous amount of information. So I wanted to recognize them by having them here. It was one of my pushes for other people wanting them, but also to make you guys aware that there are resources and people close on the ground giving a lot of time and money to work on this stuff behind the scenes. So thank you, Whit, and thank you, Chair Smith, for letting me say that, but it is important to understand the overall arching context of this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I especially appreciate all the work that's been done on interconnection. I know the serious droughts in the first decade of the 2000s, interconnection became a real goal for many water systems across the state. And there's been a tremendous amount of work done on that. So I appreciate seeing that. Any other questions from commission members? Yes, Commissioner Jaspers.
Yeah, I have a quick question. You mentioned your consideration of climate change. Could you elaborate on that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so in the OASIS hydraulic model, there are climate change predictions. I think most of the ones that we have seen expect us to have wetter, more extreme years, but it also means that the droughts can be more extreme. And so we're looking to implement that into the model to, for instance, it affects a reservoir community much different than a run-of-the-river community. And so those are the scenarios that our consultants are building in so that we can understand, how to adapt. Again, the interconnection models is a huge piece of what this group is been able to do to, survive an emergency. I appreciate you mentioning that, but we even use that for planned critical projects, like we're doing work on a very critical transmission main. Like Raleigh, we'll call Kerry and say, hey, we need to have you on standby in case something doesn't go right here. So thank you for mentioning that.
Any other questions? Commissioner Tweedy?
Thank you for the presentation. Very interesting, both from a commission standpoint and as a resident of that area. So does the EMC play a formal role in this planning process? I mean, this is great information, but do we have a place to play in approving anything or through this planning process that they're working on, or?
You want
I
to
don't
take
know
it?
who- I don't know who that's directed
take it
to.
to-
Yeah, well, there'll have to be action on the next allocation going on in Jordan Lake. Clearly, that's a big deal. One of the things that we're looking at also is the use of the sediment pool. And so we'll need support,
Okay.
you know, on those initiatives. You know, as you saw with the map, the Triangle region is over 2 basins. And so the IBT issues are paramount. You know, we had some change a few years ago on emergency transfers, but, you know, I shouldn't say I wish, but I think there are ways to improve that so that we can use this interconnection model quicker, if you will, during a crisis. So, yeah, I think your leadership is.
Yeah, I think part of the answer to that is that there are specific decisions that come to the EMC, such as IBT approvals and other individual permitting actions, for which this will be a terrific resource in terms of information. And I assume would also inform any environmental impact statements that may be required. So it's a great body of work for later decision-making by the EMC.
Yeah, and I just want to add, there's some granular stuff to agree with what they both said, but there's some more like conservation, right? What's become kind of a norm is people have to do conservation plans when they ask for certain things that are leading or kind of best in class. Well, this group is already sharing information. So when somebody brings us a conservation plan, Cary and Raleigh have done a lot of stuff. Some of these other smaller communities can network with them so that when we see something, it's not a brand of approval, but they help us make sure that those more granular things that we have to consider sometimes are consistent, if you will. So, but we can take it more. These are like the basin associations and these things. It's just a finite amount of our time. So I would like to see them come to us more and not try to get too involved with it. But there's no reason why we can't be members of their associations or be there with them. It's just a finite amount of time to let them do their work and then report to us every once in a while. Whit, any thoughts on that, or, I mean?
No, we're always happy to have, the more information, the better. I mean, this is a very transparent group. I mean, we publish our information, the meetings that we have are open. And so, you know, whatever new information we can gain is certainly important for our planning efforts.
Any other questions? Commissioner Tweedy?
One other just curiosity is, are new reservoirs an alternative for this area?
Okay, so for the city of Raleigh has long had a plan on the books for a Little River Reservoir. And so we are working on that as an alternative evaluation at the moment, in addition to a withdrawal from the Neuse River. So that's the only new reservoir I'm aware of in the Triangle Regional Supply Partnership. It's on the table.
Yeah, I'd heard about that. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Any other questions? I have one other question, which is Falls Lake and the sediment pool. I wasn't clear from the PowerPoint how that was being shown in terms of being actual or planned, or where that is in the
So
process.
that is one of the list of alternatives in the plan we're working on. I mentioned Little River Reservoir and the withdrawal from Neuse River, but that sediment pool is also in that portfolio.
Appreciate that. And going back to the previous question about how the EMC engages with some of these issues, obviously right now we're looking at potential rules for the upper Neuse River Basin, the nutrient management plan. And currently Falls Lake is not a water supply, but it is obviously part of the alternative consideration for future water supply. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Wheeler.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
And I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda. Director Rogers, do you have any
No
remarks?
comments at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I have none, so we will make corrections to the minutes and come back to you in January. Now, I don't know what problem we have if Commissioner Keene actually did make the motion. So we'll sort that out. Otherwise, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.